Hello and welcome back. I'm Alvin of Alvin Inc., and these are the stories within the stories, The Villager's Tales. Today I'll be sharing Chapter 9 of The Villager's Tales, a StoryBrook celebrity. At the start of the day, I went to the Resident Services building to check in with Mr. Nook and to discuss our next steps towards completing Project K. Mr. Nook mentioned that the island was still bare, lacking in residents, especially any of significant prestige or influence. Then, instantaneously, the most brilliant idea struck us. We needed to recruit someone huge, who's already amassed a large following of fans and admirers, and convince them to move to StoryBrook. We realized that if we could recruit to the island someone influential and prominent in the entertainment industry, then we would have a significantly higher chance of swaying KK Slider to come and perform. With this realization, I hurried off to collect some more Nook Mile tickets, and then I headed out to the airport to get started with my recruitment effort. When I arrived at the airport, Orville seemed lost in his own make-believe wonderland. I felt a little awkward snapping him back to reality when I approached him. He called Wilbur, asking him to ready the plane for takeoff, and then off we flew into the Great Big Blue. The first island Wilbur and I landed on was lush and green, pear trees everywhere. As I scurried about the island, I met a lovely individual with a warm personality, Norma. Kind as she wasn't a celebrity with a large following like what I was looking for. So we parted ways, and Wilbur and I took off to the next island. The next island we landed on had a massive lake right in the middle of it. Across the water, I could make out a feathery silhouette. I thought that perhaps I had found the hugely famous Ketchup, or even Molly. But as I approached closer, my nose began to curl. The individual with whom I met was named Anchovy, and he smelled just as his name implied. Repulsively pungent, his fetid odor made the hairs on my nose feel like they were burning off. He was clearly not someone I was wanting to recruit. I raced back to Wilbur, begging him to start the plane and take off. The next island we landed on was Godsend. Its aromatic floral fragrance calmed my heart and caressed my nostrils with fervent care. I almost didn't realize who was across the river, pacing by the fire, until I was standing right next to her. Judy! The Judy! Quite simply, one of the most stunning and well-known celebrities of our generation. She was expressive, gorgeous, and a tad bit intimidating. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would actually be standing within such close proximity to someone so iconic and influential as her. Once I got past my uncontrollable moment of fawning over her, I was finally able to hunker down and get to business. I informed Judy that StoryBrook was a fledgling island and still needed a lot of development, but that her moving to the island, even as just a summer getaway home, would mean the world to myself and the other island villagers. I was surprised by how considerate and mellow she was. When she responded with her tender, velvety voice that she would love to move to StoryBrook, I nearly exploded with tears. I couldn't believe how amazing and kind she was. After I expressed how grateful I was for her decision, I headed back to Wilbur, still dazed and stunned by the insane stroke of luck that I had on this recruitment trip. After arriving back on StoryBrook, I made my way over to Judy's plot of land where she would be moving to, and realized that for the home of a celebrity, simply wouldn't do. I started crafting and percolating ideas and yard designs that would spruce up Judy's home to make it more appropriate for a celebrity of her caliber. After crafting an idea in my mind of how I could enhance Judy's yard to showcase her grandeur, I got straight to work setting up some fencing and displaying elegant yard decor. I even planted some gorgeous flowers and shrubs. Content with what I had created for Judy, I took off to explore the island for the rest of the day, hoping to gather some additional crafting materials. While I was over near the campsite, I noticed an odd-looking pouch on the ground. Concerned about who it might belong to, I climbed down the cliff and collected it. Then, I bolted off in search of its owner. I came across Wendy after she had exited the museum, her favorite place on the island. I asked whether the pouch belonged to her, to which she responded after barely even glancing at the item that it was clearly not her style in any capacity. She even seemed mildly offended by even the insinuation that the pouch could have been hers. She said that it was much more likely an item belonging to Teddy. She pointed out that it smelled like sweat, and Teddy is the only island villager who runs around the island dripping in sweat all day. I found Teddy along the northeastern shore. He had just finished a workout on the beach when I approached him. After retrieving the pouch, his eyes nearly popped out of his head as soon as he saw it. Frantically, he reached for it, and profusely he thanked me for finding and returning the sweat-stained pouch to him. He was so grateful that he even offered me his old garden tank as a thank you. And then I returned home for the rest of the day to rest. The next day, Isabel announced the arrival of Judy on the island. She, like the rest of us on StoryBrook, were ecstatic to share our humble home with such an iconic and lovely celebrity cub. I immediately took off, headed towards Judy's place to welcome her in person to her new home. Her home was immaculate, with an air of dreaminess about it. She still had some unpacking to do, so she requested that I return later that afternoon. She informed me that she had some friends who would be coming to visit her, and that it would be wonderful for all of us to get together for late afternoon tea. After heading back outside, I decided to check in with Isabel. I wanted to learn more about what still needed to be done on StoryBrook to ensure that we had a high enough island rating to attract KK Slider to the island to perform. When I spoke with her, she said that the island had a 3-star rating, and she read off feedback from an individual with the initials KS, stating that if he had the chance to visit StoryBrook, he absolutely would. Mr. Nook noticed that the initials KS meant the KK Slider! He pulled out his cell, and surprisingly to both myself and Isabel, he knew KK Slider's phone number and gave him a call. KK Slider agreed to come to StoryBrook to perform. We were all so amazed and pleased that our hard work had finally paid off. Mr. Nook informed me that KK Slider would be arriving on the island the very next day. Light as a feather, I drifted my way towards the island entrance to await the arrival of Judy's friends. I sat for a while, taking in the astonishing bewilderment of the moment. Everything seemed to be falling into place here on StoryBrook. Dreams were coming true, the sun was shining, and life felt good. I mean, really, really good. When Judy's friends arrived at the airport, I went to greet them. They were sweet and warm individuals, much like Judy herself. I had a feeling that we would all become great friends. After exchanging pleasantries, we all headed over to Judy's. The thought ran through my mind, did she have enough time to finish unpacking by now? When we arrived, I was thoroughly impressed. Judy had finished unpacking and was readily awaiting our arrival. Her home was bright and warm, cute and comfortable. She and her friends spoke for hours. They were curious about her reasoning for moving to StoryBrook and what she planned to do next with her career. She expressed that she had been wanting a change of scenery for a while, to go to someplace new and spacious with fresh air, and that could act as a blank canvas to reignite her creative imagination again. She shared that she was taking a temporary hiatus from the acting world so that she could refocus on her life and realign her values with her actions. Her friends were so supportive and encouraging. It warmed my heart to see such camaraderie between them. As the conversation dwindled, her friends excused themselves, saying that it was time for them to take off. When Judy and I were alone, she shared with me some house decorating tips and expressed her gratitude for the invitation to move to StoryBrook. I told her that it was an honor to have her living on the island, and we both shared in the enthusiasm and excitement of building new friendships and for continuing to get to know each other. Today is the day! KK Slider will be performing on StoryBrook. After all of the hard work and dedication to the island, we've finally completed Project K. I couldn't wait to witness the glorious performance of this truly amazing musical artist. He shared with everyone on the island about his upbringing and his inspiration for creating music. We all listened eagerly, absorbing the energy of the moment, bottling it up to keep with us for the rest of our days. It was an indescribable experience. After the performance, Mr. Nook swung by my house to inform me that KK Slider would be performing on the island every Saturday from now on. He thanked me for all of the effort I put into building up the island into what it has become, and he assured me of his enthusiasm and positive outlook regarding continuing to work with me to further develop and cultivate StoryBrook into the very best island it can be for all of the island villagers. Thank you so much for joining me today for Chapter 9 of The Villagers' Tales, a StoryBrook celebrity. We are ecstatic to have Judy living here on the island. She has already inspired all of us island villagers to continue to work towards becoming our very best selves each and every day. If you'd like to learn more about Judy and her experience moving to StoryBrook, please follow the link in the description box below to read her diary entry. If you enjoy the video, please give us a like and remember to subscribe. Again, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.